Hand again, he's complaining, got to get back on defense. It's 5-on-4.
That wasn't a critic. That was the Lakers' own broadcast team, their frustration boiling over live on the air. Jeannie Buss then made a startling admission about Luka Dončić, something no owner in the history of the league had ever confessed about their new franchise player. She pulled back the curtain on his raw, unfiltered reaction to the trade and the difficult journey he'd been on ever since. But now the question looming over Los Angeles is whether his on-court behavior is about to force her hand. It all started with the deal that blindsided the entire sports world. The bombshell dropped on February 2nd, 2025. The Los Angeles Lakers shipped Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round draft pick to the Dallas Mavericks for Luka Dončić. At the time, Dallas was a mediocre 26-23, clinging to the 8th seed in the West. Mavericks GM Nico Harrison later revealed he had only spoken to the Lakers, never even shopping Dončić to other teams. Harrison even confirmed that Dončić had never once expressed a desire to leave Dallas or shown any reluctance to sign an extension. The deal happened anyway. Facing reporters, Harrison acknowledged the gravity of the move, saying, "We definitely understand the magnitude of what just transpired. It's definitely not lost on us." Before joking, his job was on the line if the trade blew up. But the real intrigue was brewing in Los Angeles. Jeannie Buss, the governor and owner of the Lakers, played the whole situation like a high-stakes poker game, a comparison she made herself. Buss revealed that she maintained such a cloak of secrecy around the deal that her own inner circle, including head coach J.J. Redick and superstar LeBron James, were kept completely in the dark until it was finalized. Let that sink in for a moment. LeBron James, the man who has essentially acted as a de facto GM for every team he's played on for a decade, had no idea. The head coach had no idea. Nobody knew. Buss was channeling the wisdom of her legendary father, Dr. Jerry Buss, who taught her to wait for the perfect opportunity and then go all in. She insisted the team wasn't actively trying to move Davis or Christie, but the chance to acquire a generational talent like Dončić was an opportunity she could not pass up. And then she delivered a thinly veiled shot at Anthony Davis that the entire league tried to pretend they didn't hear. Buss pointed out that Davis had been unhappy and complaining about his role, implying that the trade was what was best for everyone. She praised the airtight secrecy from both sides, stating, "I'm really proud that it didn't leak out." And just like that, the deal was done. The basketball world was in a state of shock. Luka Dončić was now a Laker, and the assumption was universal: he had to be thrilled. He was headed to the legendary purple and gold. Showtime. Hollywood. The franchise of Magic, Kareem, Shaq, and Kobe. You're expected to walk through those doors and carry yourself like you own the place. That is not what happened. In August of 2025, Jeannie Buss gave an interview on Slovenian radio that stopped everyone in their tracks. Buss confessed nobody knew the trade was going to happen. "I knew, and he didn't know. I've never had a player come to the Lakers and be as sad as he was," she revealed. "He had to process what happened." Let that statement sink in. The owner of the Los Angeles Lakers, a woman who has watched legends walk through those doors for decades, said she had never seen a player arrive so completely and utterly devastated, not disappointed, not just caught off guard, sad, the kind of profound sadness that feels like mourning a death. The media, of course, pounced on the admission immediately. Pundits like Nick Wright speculated that the trade had shattered Dončić's confidence for the very first time in his career, sparking a difficult period of adjustment. And when you consider who Luka Dončić is, that theory makes perfect sense. This was a man who had been the king of Dallas from the moment he was drafted. He was their golden boy, their franchise cornerstone, the infallible talent they had built their entire world around. And then overnight, with no warning and no input, he was shipped out. For years, Luka could do no wrong in Dallas. That was the entire point. In Dallas, he was showered with unconditional love. It didn't matter how many games they lost or how far they fell from a title. Luka was their guy. He had spent his whole career there. They drafted him. He was raised in that organization. The fans would have been happy if he played for 15 years and never delivered a ring. They felt the same way about Dirk Nowitzki for 14 years before he finally brought them a championship in 2011. In Dallas, you were loved no matter what. But the Lakers simply do not operate that way. Buss knows it, the fans know it, and Luka is learning it. If Luka spends the rest of his career in LA and fails to win a championship, he will not be remembered as a beloved Laker. That is the cold reality of playing in Los Angeles. You can be the most talented player on the floor. You can put up breathtaking numbers every single night. But if a championship banner isn't raised to the rafters, the love eventually runs out. Just ask Dwight Howard. Ask Steve Nash. Ask any of the stars who came to LA with huge expectations and left with nothing. The Lakers are a franchise defined by results, a point Buss hammered home herself in a February 2026 interview saying, "I think Laker fans have a lot to look forward to. We're about winning and wanting to add more trophies," she declared, adding that every future move would be made to build around Doncic's success. He is the new face of the franchise. She praised him as an illusionist on the court for his dazzling playmaking, calling him a must-see attraction. But Buss also noted a major shift in Dončić over the summer of 2025. While he was playing for Slovenia in Eurobasket, she saw a different person, someone more settled and at peace with his new role in Los Angeles. The Lakers organization showed its commitment by sending a coach to assist the Slovenian national team, and Buss pointed to Doncic's growing connection to franchise history. She noted his deep admiration for his hero Kobe Bryant, whom he'd met as a teenager, and Gigi Bryant. He also showed his commitment off the court, donating to restore a vandalized Kobe mural in May 2025, a gesture Buss publicly applauded. From the owner's box, the message was relentlessly positive. Buss shot down rumors that LeBron James was unhappy with the trade and pointed to Doncic's leading All-Star fan vote as proof of his global appeal. She painted a perfect picture of a franchise completely unified and all in on its new superstar. But that's just one side of the coin. While Buss is talking about trophies, illusionists, and a bright future, a much different, more troubling story is playing out on the court. Ever since Luka Dončić slipped on that iconic purple and gold jersey, he hasn't just been playing basketball, he's been driving the entire city of Los Angeles to the brink of insanity. It's not the dazzling points, it's not the impossible assists. It's a habit, a toxic trait that has defined him since day one. This ghost from his past trailed him all the way from Dallas, a relentless shadow he just can't outrun, a fatal flaw that now haunts Hollywood. Luka Dončić has a problem, a serious one, and it didn't start in LA. This issue has been festering since his first days in Dallas, escalating with each passing season. The problem, his non-stop war with the referees. And the statistics tell the whole ugly story. By June of 2024, Dončić had amassed a staggering 78 regular season technical fouls and another 9 in the playoffs, with the vast majority coming from his arguments with the officials. Now in the 2025 to 2026 season with the Lakers, he's on track to shatter his own record for technicals. He's already at 13 with months of basketball left to play, putting him right at the top of the league's most notorious offenders. This fire didn't just ignite overnight. Let's go back. February 12th, 2020. Dončić is just a sophomore in the league. The Mavericks are facing the Sacramento Kings. Dončić barrels toward the hoop, takes a hit, and gets nothing. No whistle. He immediately confronts referee Musa Duggar and earns himself a technical. But the defining moment came from the opposing bench. Kings head coach Luke Walton, standing just feet away, sneered at Dončić to give the ref his autograph, a biting jab, suggesting the young superstar was already getting preferential treatment. Walton's sarcasm earned him a technical of his own, and the incident split social media down the middle. Half the fans screamed that Luka was already getting the superstar treatment, that the refs were in his pocket. The other half rushed to his defense. Dončić still put up a monster line, 33 points, 12 boards, and 8 assists in a 130-111 victory. But the blueprint for his self-destruction was being drawn. Now jump to August 30th, 2020. The setting, the NBA bubble playoffs. It's Game 6 first round of the Western Conference against the formidable Clippers. After a call he hated. In the third quarter, Dončić whipped the ball in the direction of referee Mark Davis, instantly drawing a technical. Tensions were already boiling over. Marcus Morris Sr. had been tossed earlier for a flagrant 2 foul committed against Dončić. Even coach Rick Carlisle was ejected. The game saw a total of 6 technicals handed out. The league later hit Dončić with a $15,000 fine for his outburst. The Mavericks went down 111-97, and just like that, their season was done. Dončić filled the stat sheet with 38 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists, but his performance was marred by glaring defensive mistakes made while he was busy arguing with the officials. It was his first technical in the postseason, leading to his first playoff elimination and exit, where he seemed more focused on the referees than on the opponent. May 2021. The opponent was the Kings again. This time, the meltdown was spectacular. Dončić earned 2 technicals in the blink of an eye. The first tee came after an offensive foul was called on him. He screamed, "Hell no!" directly at referee Rodney Mott, punctuating it with a clenched fist. Just moments later, in a fit of pure rage, he hurled the ball down the entire length of the court. He was ejected on the spot. That ejection marked his 15th technical foul of the season, putting him just 1 away from a mandatory suspension. One more outburst meant he would be forced to sit. Rick Carlisle also got a technical during the chaos. Dallas lost 111-99. Dončić had 30 points before his ejection, but the league reviewed the incident and confirmed both of his technicals stood. The official explanation to reporters was simple. The first foul was for his disrespectful response, and the second for throwing the ball in an overt manner. The loss wasn't the primary concern for the fans. They were terrified that their franchise cornerstone couldn't control his temper long enough to simply stay in the game. March 22, 2023. Chase Center against the Golden State Warriors. Dončić drives, gets hit, no call. But this time, his reaction was something no one had ever seen before. He turned to referee Kevin Scott and made the unmistakable money gesture, rubbing his fingers together. The implication was clear: the fix was in. He was immediately teed up and later slapped with a $35,000 fine from the league, the biggest of his career. The Mavs lost a heartbreaker 127-125. Dončić scored 30 points, but the debate raged. Some called his gesture brave, a stand against bad officiating. Others called it profoundly stupid, but everyone knew one thing for certain. This man was physically incapable of leaving the referees alone. And then came the grandest stage in all of basketball. June 12, 2024. The NBA Finals. Game 3 against the Boston Celtics. The Mavericks were already in a 0-2 hole, their championship dreams hanging by a thread. With 4 minutes and 12 seconds left in the game, Dončić fouled out. His 6th foul. 4 of those fouls were committed in the 4th quarter alone. Most of them were lazy reaches, the result of bad positioning. After the crushing loss, Dončić told the media, "We couldn't play physical." 6 fouls in the NBA Finals, he lamented. Come on, man, be better than that. The Mavericks lost 106-99, sinking into an insurmountable 0-3 series deficit. No team in history has ever recovered from being down 3-0 in the finals. The season was over, and the public reaction was swift and brutal. One person tweeted sarcastically, "Luka complaining about fouls, so unlike him." Another bluntly stated he was throwing and tackling people. "Learn to play defense," someone else chimed in. A more balanced view pointed out they actually let a lot of contact go. Don't try to take a charge when your feet aren't set. Naturally, his loyal Mavericks fan base insisted he was robbed, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. On the biggest night of his life, the headline wasn't his generational talent. It was his uncontrollable temper. This was the version of Dončić that departed from Dallas, a basketball prodigy with 2 glaring, undeniable flaws: his conditioning and his complaining. When the Lakers made the blockbuster trade, there was a glimmer of hope, a belief that the intense spotlight of Los Angeles and the weight of that historic jersey would force him to change. It didn't. We've now reached the breaking point. Since landing in Hollywood, Dončić's war with the officials hasn't just persisted. It has exploded to levels that the media are calling a return to, or even worse than his most volatile days in Dallas. And in LA, that spotlight is 100 times more unforgiving than it ever was in Texas. The first major crack appeared on April 8, 2025, during a tense road game in Oklahoma City against the Thunder. Dončić earned his first technical foul in the 3rd quarter for screaming profanity at referee JT Orr. But the situation boiled over in the 4th, with the Lakers clinging to a 108-107 lead and just 7 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock. After sinking a basket, Dončić got into it with a courtside fan named Jeremy Price, but referee Orr mistakenly believed the words were meant for him, slapping Dončić with a 2nd technical and an ejection. Without their star, the Lakers, who had been up by 1, completely fell apart, ultimately losing the game 136-120. And though the NBA admitted its error and rescinded the 2nd technical the following day, the damage was done. The fan Jeremy Price even backed up Dončić's story, calling it harmless banter. But it didn't matter. As one fan perfectly stated, you can't rescind a loss, while others were far more blunt. They called the refs garbage, demanded accountability, and insisted the official should be fined, with one person sarcastically suggesting they bring the teams back to reset the game clock. It was a funny thought, but the reality was a brutal loss the Lakers never should have suffered, and none of it erased the fact that Dončic's first technical was entirely his own fault. Then came December 10th, 2025, and another clash with the Thunder, where Dončić drove the lane only to take an elbow to the eye from Kelly Olynyk. Watching the replay, commentator Stan Van Gundy immediately declared it should have been a foul, possibly even a flagrant one. Yet the whistle never blew, and Dončić did what he always does, he argued, earning his 5th technical foul of the season for his outburst. The Lakers lost the game, and while Dončić was absolutely justified in his anger over getting elbowed in the face, the pattern was becoming undeniable. Even with a commentator validating his complaint, his history was working against him. When a player protests every single call, officials eventually stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. A point one fan articulated with razor-sharp clarity Luka whines after every single play. His constant complaining had destroyed his credibility, prompting another fan to mock him, saying they were shocked that Luka complained about a call. He had become the boy who cried wolf, only now when the wolf was real, no one was left to believe him. The season descended into further ugliness on January 15, 2026, during a 135-117 blowout loss to the Charlotte Hornets, where Dončić, fuming over a no call, jogged back on defense so slowly he gave up a wide-open three-pointer before getting teared up. After the game, the criticism came from inside his own locker room, with Lakers guard Marcus Smart bluntly telling the media the issue was talking too much. When your own teammate uses the microphone to tell you to be quiet, the problem has officially moved beyond the media and the fans. It's now a problem with the team. February 25th. 2026 was supposed to be the ultimate revenge game, as Dončić made his highly anticipated return to Dallas wearing a Lakers uniform. The game everyone had circled on their calendars began, and just 3 minutes into the first quarter, the inevitable happened. Dončić was hit with a technical foul for arguing a missed call on a drive to the basket a mere 3 minutes into a game that had barely begun, marking his 13th technical foul of the season. He was now on pace for a career high, melting down in the very arena where he was once revered as a king. That's when the media firestorm erupted in full force, led by ESPN's Zach Lowe, who launched into what could only be described as a tirade on his podcast. He labeled Dončić's on-court conduct as unwatchable and completely out of control, ranting, "It's every play, just play the game, man. Not everything is a foul. Are you trying to draw a foul, or are you trying to play basketball? Are you in a one-on-one battle with the officials? It's every single possession now. It's back to his Dallas levels. It's unwatchable." Lowe highlighted the irony that while Dončić was leading the league in scoring with 32.5 points per game and free throw attempts at 10.7 a night, his constant arguing was killing the team's rhythm and sabotaging their transition defense. His theatrics were overshadowing his talent, and Lowe implored him to concentrate on the things he could control instead of battling the officials on every single play. ESPN's Tim McMahon was just as direct on the show Get Up, calling the incessant complaining one of Dončić's two major flaws right alongside his conditioning, and noting that he's crying as much as he ever has. He explained that Luka channels all his frustration directly at the referees, so the more frustrated he gets, the more he whines and cries. But it was Monty Jones who delivered the harshest critique, declaring that the Luka Dončić experience had been a disaster for the Lakers, and that the star comports himself like a loser. Former NBA player Jeff Teague added that Dončić makes the Lakers boring to watch, saying, "Damn bro, you cry the whole game." Chandler Parsons branded him a foul baiter. Max Kellerman joined the chorus, and the voices just kept getting louder, until finally the Lakers' own broadcast team made the issue impossible to ignore. During a live broadcast, one announcer lamented, "One hand again, he's complaining, he's got to get back on defense, it's 5-on-4. And those words were a stunning indictment from the team's own commentators. This wasn't the opposing team's crew having a laugh at his expense, or a podcast host chasing clicks. These were the very people paid to make him look good on television, and they sounded like they had finally reached their breaking point. As if on cue, while Dončić was still arguing with an official, the other team exploited the advantage, scoring an easy basket and drawing a foul. It was a 5-on-4 situation that resulted in a free bucket and one, a perfect illustration of the price of standing at half court yelling at a ref who has already moved on. It's happening again. one announcer said, while the other compared the situation to scolding his own children. That was not a casual comparison when a professional analyst says watching a grown man play a sport reminds him of disciplining his kids. It signals a level of exasperation that goes far beyond simple criticism. The reaction on social media was just as intense. On Reddit, a thread discussing Lowe's rant exploded with over 500 upvotes on the r/Lakers subreddit, filled with comments like, "Luka is a great talent, but he complains way too much, and it leads to 5-on-4s." Over on X, a fan wrote that the Lakers had become a tough watch, and now with Luka, he couldn't stand all the complaining. Another pointed out that now that Luka isn't playing for a team that flies under the radar, everyone is noticing just how slow and lazy he is. Mavericks fans, however, seemed to relish the chaos with a collective and resounding, "We told you so." Headlines began appearing like, "Lakers finally learning hush. Luka truth Mavericks always knew." But it was some of the fan comments that delivered the most brutal blows, cutting deeper than any analyst ever could. "The trade destroyed him," one observer wrote. "He's mentally broken." Pundit Jason Tim called the situation infuriating and flat-out embarrassing, demanding an immediate wake-up call as a grim consensus began to solidify something fundamental had to change. But if you believe this story is merely about a star player jawing at referees, you're missing the point entirely, because the constant complaining is just a symptom. The disease is rooted far deeper, poisoning everything, from the Lakers' core identity to the very question of how Luka Dončić fits within it. It all starts on the defensive end, or more precisely in the total vacuum where a defense should be. On social media, fans have branded Dončić a defensive virus and an outright liability. His defensive rating sinks to the bottom among high-volume players, and opposing offenses hunt him on switches like a predator singling out the slowest gazelle. On SiriusXM, Sam Mitchell pinpointed Dončić as the Lakers' single biggest problem, stating he refuses to play defense while holding his teammates to a standard he himself won't meet. A post on Reddit's RNBA Talk, earning over 200 upvotes, labeled him the exact opposite of a defensive anchor, declaring, "The LA Lakers made the mistake of a lifetime trading for Luka." Even a devoted former Mavericks fan who followed Dončić to Los Angeles confessed on Our Lakers that when he's tired or simply doesn't feel like it, his defense is terrible, a stark admission from someone who idolizes the man. The February 24th, 2026 collapse against the Orlando Magic was a masterclass in total dysfunction. It was a frantic seesaw battle, and on the game's final possession, the ball went to Dončić. He caught the pass a solid 8 feet behind the three-point line, but was completely unguarded, wide open. It was a shot he launches every night, but this time he froze. He put the ball on the floor for one dribble, then disastrously picked it up, forcing a pass to LeBron, who had his back to the hoop out by the arc. All James could do was hoist a desperate fadeaway three. And right there, the possession withered and died. LeBron received the ball with his back to the basket, completely out of rhythm. With 2 seconds on the clock, he had no choice but to throw up a prayer. It never had a chance. After the game, Dončić tried to explain the unexplainable. "I know it was open," he admitted, "but I just thought it was a little bit far, so I did one dribble closer. Probably should have picked up the ball. Probably should have." Indeed, for his part, LeBron played the diplomat. He said, "I thought he had a good look and it looked like he kind of just lost his balance." That's classic LeBron speak for, "He blew it and I'm not about to crucify him in front of the cameras." But that botched final play was a glaring symptom of deeper-seated issues. Dončić's ball-dominant style has been described as suffocating. As Sam Mitchell put it, Luka Dončić can't play basketball without the ball. He warned that eventually NBA players get sick of just standing in the corner. Luka's drives to the basket have steadily dropped since 2021, hitting a career low of 14%, replaced by a barrage of step-back jumpers from 28 feet or more, shots that look heroic when they fall and absolutely cripple the offense when they don't. Over on Our Lakers, a thread titled "An Honest Opinion About Luka" called his off-ball game pretty atrocious. He makes no cuts, he shows no movement, he sets no screens. If the ball isn't in his hands, he's a statue. Then there's the partnership with LeBron, or the profound lack of one. The idea of pairing two ball-dominant stars who are both liabilities on defense was questioned from the moment the trade was announced. What do they all do? They are incredible playmakers and shot makers, yet none of the three plays a lick of defense. That's the cold, hard math. Dončić, LeBron, and Austin Reeves, three players who can score and create, with not a single one capable of locking down an opponent on the other end. On First Things First, Nick Wright declared the Lakers are drawing dead in the playoffs, arguing that Doncic's defensive failures are squandering LeBron's final years. Kelvin Washington on The Odd Couple was even more blunt about the LeBron-Doncic duo. This needs to end. There are multiple reasons why this just isn't going to work. The statistics paint an even more damning picture. Dončić leads the NBA in turnovers, giving up the ball 4.1 times per game. With him on the floor, the Lakers' offensive rating plummets to a dismal 117.8 points per 100 possessions. That ties him for last among high-usage players. Their record stood at 34-23 as of late February 2026, having lost 4 of their last 6 games, including beatdowns by the Celtics and the Magic. And when this team loses, they don't lose by a little. The team with the league's worst average margin of defeat is the Washington Wizards, which is what you'd expect from one of the worst teams. That makes sense. The Wizards are tanking, but can you guess who's number 2 on that list? The Lakers, which is unheard of for a supposed contender. The Lakers hold the second largest margin of defeat in the entire NBA, trailing only a team that is actively trying to lose. The reasons are structural, and the Lakers are neither. They have some smart, high IQ players who can shoot, but that's not enough. They have some smart, sure, good shooters. Some of them, but they lack the collective athleticism to recover from defensive errors and the consistent outside shooting to compensate for their breakdowns. So when a game begins to unravel, it triggers an avalanche. These blowouts are no accident. They are the inevitable outcome of a roster that can't defend, can't run the floor, and can't shoot well enough to mask those fatal flaws. So when they lose, they get obliterated. Absolutely obliterated. On X, a fan perfectly captured the growing frustration. Too many lazy games? Just step-back jumper after step-back. Another chimed in, the Lakers are running an inefficient offense. Just give him the ball and let him cook. And a viral post on Our Lakers titled, "It's okay for us Laker fans to admit Luka hasn't been as great," called him a player with a max contract built around glaring weaknesses. But not everyone has abandoned him. Candace Parker came to his defense, suggesting he's being overlooked for MVP, just like Kobe was a victim of the world's boredom with sustained greatness. Some fans on our NBA are pushing back hard against the criticism, dismissing it as jealousy and highlighting his incredible numbers around 32 to 35 points, 8 to 9 rebounds, and 8 to 9 assists on a 61 to 62% true shooting percentage. Those stats should be the bedrock of a title-contending team. Many place the blame not on Dončić, but on a front office that built a roster that exposes his flaws instead of hiding them, something Dallas always managed to do. And that criticism leads directly to Jeanie Buss. Because throughout all the drama, the complaining, the crushing losses, the defensive meltdowns, the fan outrage, the media scrutiny, and the announcers openly airing their frustrations on live television, Buss has remained steadfast. She has made no public statements condemning Doncic's arguments with officials. Her focus has remained on growth integration and the long-term vision. She publicly stated that every decision would be made to ensure Doncic's success. She anointed him the new face of the franchise. But here's the unavoidable truth about the Lakers. Patience is a luxury this organization cannot afford. Its currency is championships. Buss made it clear to the world the only mission is victory. The only goal is more trophies. That is the mandate. That is the gold standard. But as the team stands today, they are a footnote, an easy first-round exit. The future, however, holds potential with significant cap space clearing up and a war chest of at least 3 first-round picks to wield in the offseason. The assets to build a dynasty are there, but everything hinges on one question. Can Luka Dončić conquer his own demons before he torpedoes this franchise's chance to build a legacy around him? That question was ignited when the owner went public with a stunning admission, calling him the most despondent player she had ever seen wear the uniform. She proclaimed she was betting the entire franchise on him. She declared the future belonged to him. But she also reminded everyone that this organization is, and always will be, about raising banners. When those two realities collide, when the sulking, the defensive meltdowns, and the demoralizing losses stack up against the sacred expectation of a parade, something has to break. Buss gambled on the trade like it was the final hand of a world championship poker game. She pushed all her chips in, and right now the cards on the table look grim. But the game isn't over. The ultimate question is whether Luka Dončić will finally get his act together before the Lakers are forced to walk away from the table. And if anyone truly believes Jeanie Buss will just sit back and watch this empire crumble over one man's personal struggles, they don't understand the Buss family. They don't understand the Lakers.